to show you how to factor this complex trinomial the quick way. That means we're going to go from here to here without an in-between line, although there will be a little bit of side work. Now, there is another method called factoring by decomposition, where we kind of write things out in the middle, but this one is just a little bit quicker, and it will help you a lot if you need to factor very, very fast. Let's go. So the first thing you always need to do is check if you have a greatest common factor amongst these terms, because if you do have a greatest common factor and you don't factor it out, first of all, you're giving yourself a lot of extra work, and secondly, your answer will technically not be fully factored, which is a problem. So in this case, I have 9x squared plus 21x plus 10, and I don't have a greatest common factor amongst all three. The next thing you need to do is take your first value, the a value, and the last value, the c value, and multiply them. So a times c, the last number times the first number, that would be 9 times 10, and that equals to 90. So now what we need to do is we actually need to find all pairs of numbers that multiply to 90. Now, you're going to get a little bit quicker at doing this, but I like to list all of them all at once, okay? So factors of 90, that number you just found. So there's 1 and 90, 2 and 45, 3 and 30, 5 and 18, 6 and 15, and I don't need to keep going because then I'll just be repeating the numbers. Now, it looks like a lot of factors, but usually it's not that bad. The next thing we need to do is we need to find the pair of factors that when I add them, I get this middle value. Okay, so if I take 1 and 90, I get 91. That's not it. 2 and 45, I get 47. That's not it. 3 and 30, I get 33. That's not it. 5 and 18, I get 23. I'm close, but that's not it. 6 and 15, ooh, I got 21. So that is the pair of numbers I'm looking for. And 9 and 10, I get 19. So that's not it. So I just determined that the pair of numbers that multiply to 90 and add to 21 are 6 and 15. In this next part, you're going to draw a little box, and I just write two sides of a box just because it's quicker. And in one corner, you're going to write the first term, 9x squared. In the last part, you're going to write 10, the last term, the c value. And in the other corners, you are going to write these two numbers, and it actually doesn't matter which order you do it. So here I'm going to write 6, and here I'm going to write 15. Now, however, this is 6x, so you need to write the x, and this is 15x, because I'm breaking this value up. And now this is the fun part. What we're going to do is we're going to look at this box, and we're going to take out the greatest common factor in each direction. So going this way, between 9x squared and 6x, the greatest common factor is 3x, okay, between these two. Between these two, 15x and 10, the greatest common factor, what is it? It's 5. Now I'm doing the same thing in this direction. Between 9x squared and 15x, the greatest common factor is 3x. And in this direction, between 6x and 10, what's the greatest common factor? 2. So actually, now that we've done this, and you're going to get really quick at it, these make up your factors. The only thing is you need a plus in between. So the first set of brackets is going to be 3x plus 5, and the other set of brackets is going to be 3x plus 2. And that's how easy it is. You just list your first and last term, and the middle term is broken up, and you take out the greatest common factor this way, this way, this way, and this way, and that's what makes up your factors. And of course, you can double check by expanding this to see if you get the same answer. So 3x and 3x is 9x squared plus 6x plus 15x plus 10. And once I simplify that, I would get 9x squared plus 21x plus 10, which is what I started with. Now we're going to follow these same steps, and we're going to factor this example. 6x squared plus 4x minus 2. And what is the first thing I need to do? Don't forget, you need to actually check if there is a greatest common factor among these terms. So between 6x squared plus 4x minus 2, I actually have a greatest common factor of 2. Okay, so now I jumped a little ahead. I'm going to factor out, and then I will factor that other expression. So if I factor out 2 out of this one, I will have 3x squared plus 2x minus 1. And now I can proceed with those steps over here with this trinomial. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is a times c, so which is 3 times -1, and that is -3. And now, so this is going to be a lot faster for me to find all those factors. I have to find all of the factors of -3. I'm just going to start with 3. So if I have 1 and 3, and I know in order to get -3, one of those numbers has to be negative. So is it going to be a -1 and +3 or +1 and -3? Well, if my b value is positive, that means the bigger number has to be positive and the smaller number has to be negative. And it would be the other way around if this was negative. So I know that this is -1 and 3. I don't even have any other options. So these two numbers add to +2, which is my b value. So now I'm going to, again, set up that little box. And I will put my very first term, 3x squared, here. My last term, -1, here. And then in these corners, I will break it up with these factors. It doesn't really matter which one goes where, so I'm going to put 3. But instead of 3, I'm just going to make it 3x and negative 1x. So now the fun part, getting the greatest common factor out of each of these. So if I go this way, the greatest common factor is 3x, right? Because I'm factoring the number 3 and the variable x. In this direction, the greatest common factor is negative 1. If I do it this way, the greatest common factor, there's nothing I can factor out between the 3 and the negative 1, but I can factor out an x. And in this direction, I don't have anything that I can factor out that is common between these two terms, so I'll just put a 1. And now, I still have that 2 that's been factored out, but all I need to do is just put this 3x minus 1, that makes one of the factors, and x plus 1. If there's no negative, that means it's a plus. X plus 1, that makes it the other factor. And that's how quick it is.